Welcome everybody who has joined so far. You are on time, which is amazing. We know that many of our colleagues are still switching from meetings. They might be a few minutes late, so we're just going to give it 3 to 4 minutes before we get started. Just to flag that this meeting is being recorded. And if Madison could already put up the first slide, that would be amazing. And then we can be ready to go in a few minutes. बोलो Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. We're just giving it 1 more minute, allowing some of the colleagues who are keen to attend to start together with us instead of having to rewatch the recording. Just bear with us for a few more minutes and then we can get going. Welcome. Please leave your name and the name of your organization in the chat. That's much appreciated. Thanks.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Yeah, thank you.
All right. I think we've given everybody plenty of time to join. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and a warm welcome to the third and final webinar of a 3-part webinar series on menstrual waste. Today, I would like to ask everyone who is not speaking to kindly mute your microphones. Today is the last webinar on the topic of emerging solutions, 3-part webinar series that has been organized by UNFPA, UNHCR, and RHSC's Menstrual Health Supplies Workstream. My name is Adrian Dongas. I am the Global Chair of the Menstrual Hygiene Management in Emergencies Working Group and the focal point for menstrual hygiene management in emergencies at UNFPA. I would like to quickly point out that this session was organized by myself and my colleagues. A big thank you to Tanya Mahajan, to Nancy Muller, and Madison Schuben. It's really the 4 of us that have been able to make all of this happen. And of course, also the amazing speakers and panelists that we have here today. I think I can speak for all of us because we know the program that we really have an exciting 1.5 hours ahead after dissecting the behaviors and some of the system challenges that come with addressing menstrual waste in the last 2 webinars. Today, we're really looking ahead at what some of the innovations are that have been created in the last years and decades to address the waste that comes with menstrual products. And we really have some interesting speakers today that will address that through their technologies. Contrary to the previous sessions where we had keynote speakers, today we're really trying to put these innovations at the center of all of our attention. And to do that, we have slightly changed the structure. This webinar will start with short 5-minute introductions or pitches, you might say, from 5 different speakers who will introduce their innovations. Then after that, we will follow with some probing questions from key experts who have been following menstrual health and hygiene innovations, menstrual waste, investing in the menstrual health and hygiene space, who all come with a different perspective to basically probe and see how feasible some of these technologies are, how scalable, and maybe also just to help us dig a little bit more and better understand what kind of opportunities these technologies represent. And finally, I think this is a really important one. We are trying to make sure that we have a bit more time for all of you in the room. In the past webinars, there was so much to discuss that in the end, the room for questions from the audience was limited. And today, hopefully, our time management will be slightly better and you will have an opportunity to pose questions. So my recommendation would be to all of you that as you're listening to the presentations, please do share questions that pop up, something that you'd really like to know in the chat. We will be monitoring that. And when we get back to the Q&A section for you as the audience, we will be able to ask these questions to the different speakers. I know that Madison has a quick poll ready. Could you kindly share that with the group before we get started? So the first poll asks you to select up to 3 areas of menstrual waste management work that are, in your view, most needed of innovation or technological breakthrough. So please go ahead and select the ones that are most relevant to you. They should be popping up on your screen, but I don't see people answering it yet. So please go ahead and do so. That would be amazing. I believe we have 2 questions overall, correct?
That's correct. Yep, I see answers coming into the second question.
Answers are flowing in. That is great.
Can I make some question? I should select three areas, right?
That is correct.
But I cannot say submit. How to do it? Submit. I have to do one, select 2 or what?
Mahesh, you need to go down. Actually, there is a second question. I also had the same problem. So when I scroll down,
sorry. Okay, great.
I also face the same problem.
Perfect. Okay, so there's a second question underneath. Once you have filled them in both, you can submit your answers, and we will be sharing these with you. So please go ahead and fill those out. In the meantime, while you're filling out the last questions, I would like to start already by introducing you to the first speaker. Her name is Olivia Ahn. She is the co-founder of Planera, a company that has developed a water-soluble, flushable menstrual pad. As a side note, I can say that we recently received a pack of Planera's sanitary pads just to try them out. And the first test went straight into a glass of water. It was quite impressive to see how this product disintegrates. But Olivia is here with us today to share a little bit more about her technology. I believe we have now ended the poll. So with that, we can share the results now or at the end. Madison, please confirm which of the 2 it will be.
Yeah, we can share the results at the end. We can do the presentations.
Perfect. All right, then we're going to get started with Olivia's presentation. All the presentations have been pre-recorded just to make sure that everybody sticks to time and that we have more time for you and for your questions. So without further ado, over to Olivia's presentation.
Wonderful.
I can't hear anything yet.
Not centuries.
There we go.
You may need to open the presentation from the get-go, and the slides will, like when you start the slideshow, the audio should start.
Yeah, I think I'm going to reshare it. I don't know why it wasn't.
That's all right.
Let me try that one more time. All right.
Hello everyone, my name's Olivia. I'm one of the co-founders of Planera, and we have developed flushable pads that disappear in days and not centuries. The challenge is that 260 billion pads are sold every year, used for only 8 hours but takes over 500 years to degrade, breaking down into permanent microplastics. It still remains the dominant product in the global market, with over 90% of women who use this every single year. This means that there are enough products used to go around the planet 1,600 times. And every single one of those pads will end up in a bin, break down into microplastics, and continue to emit carbon after you have thrown it away via incinerators, landfill, and blocking up our waterways. What we need is a convenient way to dispose of pads without creating permanent waste. Tackles the problem of waste created by disposable menstrual products. Our water dispersible pads have impact across the value chain with water dispersible and biodegradable raw materials, with a new conversion process that is as high performance as high volume, with ensuring the elimination of the acrylic-based adhesive during the industrialized manufacturing process, which has created the first microplastic-free absorbent hygiene line. With 1 in 3 menstrual products in the UK that are being flushed away, this means that we have certified and become the first flushable pad, meaning that we use existing infrastructure to remove and degrade the product in wastewater systems, taking advantage of the Biosolids Assurance Scheme to return the cellulose to agriculture and eliminate microplastics. The 3 main impact across the value chain is in the industrialized manufacturing process, user interaction, and waste processing. Our tech and data has been completely consumer driven, as well as to be applied into multi-purpose material technology, the first of which being a certified flushable pad, which has been approved via the Water Research Centre through the Water Industry Standard 040206. With a fully water dispersible solution of a pad and wrapper, this provides a convenient and hygienic disposal, allowing you to flush away your product whilst halving your carbon footprint as well as zero microplastics. We outperform the UK market leader with more security, with greater and faster absorption, more comfort with a drier top sheet and zero acrylic glue, and more hygienic by providing a flushable and biodegradable solution. Our promise is that the pad you use today will disappear before your next period, gone in 30 days versus 500 years. These flushable pads are a revolution compared to the permanent pads that are on the market. By providing an alternative route of disposal, we can guarantee a lifetime of less than 30 days versus a minimum of 80 years, with zero microplastics as well as half of the carbon footprint. Our material technology is a water dispersible fluid absorber, and our industrial technology is a microplastic-free absorbent hygiene manufacturing line. This innovates the end of life, which has been proven through our certification of flushability and through our first LCA performed by NAREC comparing our flushable pads versus other pads that will end up in a bin. Our IP has been protected through our 2 IP patent families, protecting both the method of creation as well as high-speed continuous process of production in the regions below. We are continuing to gather data with 3 other LCAs due to be completed by the end of this year, as well as impact of microplastics. We are delighted by our market acceptance, where our early adopters in the UK have switched to our flushable pads due to hygiene, discretion, and convenience. The press have also, which has accumulated to demand outweighing supply. Our last store opening, we sold out in less than an hour, and we have over 17,000 people within our community. We've seen for our product trials, we've had over 1,500 people sign up within the first 24 hours for every single one, as well as our latest product trial, we've had over 500 people developing our next product, which are liners. We are well on the way to commercializing our product by launching in the UK in November of this year. Our product is ready. It is community developed, market tested, and IP protected. Our funds have been raised through our £7.5 million seed round last year with value and investors, with the next round 6 months post-launch, as well as the line, which will be ready by October of this year, with again the IP submitted, and the line will be producing 600 pads per minute, and we are in the current process of building. We have been supported by strategic investors along our journey, and our technology can also be applied across the absorbent hygiene market into nappies and incontinence, as well as tissues and wipes. We exist to pioneer technologies that free our planet from permanent waste. Thank you very much for listening.
All right. Well, that was a very succinct and very exciting presentation from Olivia. Thank you so much for that. I think that people are quite excited to see how this product is going to, to be received once the launch takes place in November. Personally, with my interest in scaling innovations, I'm very curious to see how you'll be able to take all of this to scale. I know that there are some questions lined up. I'd love to hear, if I could just give a brief thought for the Q&A section later on, to hear the differences between the biodegradability versus the compostability of all of this. But I'm pretty sure that the panelists have already highlighted that in their questions. So with that, I would like to move to the second presenter. Madison, maybe you could pull up the slides. Just to confirm, are we going for Jaydeep or for Mahesh now that Mahesh is in the call as well?
I think we're still planning to go with Jaydeep. We'll just go
All
in that
right.
order.
Okay. Well, then the next speaker is Jaydeep Mundo. I've had the pleasure of knowing Jaydeep for many years and meeting him years ago in London at an event where he was already presenting his earlier versions of a biodegradable, even compostable menstrual pad. Jaydeep is incredibly passionate about the topic of menstrual health and hygiene, has played an important role in developing a new product category of compostable pads. I'm very happy that he's here as the founder of Aker Innovations to talk about his newest product. So without further ado, I'd like to say over to Jaydeep's presentation.
Hello everyone. Today I'm here to share our decade-plus experience in the menstrual hygiene sector as a solution provider. Today, as you know, the problem in India is that there are 355 million plus women in menstruating age. Out of that, only 36% use sanitary pad. Although they are generating 12 billion sanitary pads every year, which are either going to the landfills and staying there for 500 years, or it being incinerated where it is releasing toxic gases, fumes, which are not good for us and good for the environment. On the other side, we also estimated that 17 sanitary pads or plastic pads which are being disposed of, it also costs about $1 for the government to be spent on this sector. Globally, more than 60% women who use commercial pads like the plastic pads, they also face irritations, skin challenges, rashes and all these things which are also being proven issues. So now we introduce Anandi pads as a solution. So it is safe and hygienic because we don't use any materials which are harmful. There's a completely harmful chemical-free product. We have introduced a natural super absorbent to the sector, which removes all these irritations and skin challenges. We are certified and tested as per the ISO 10993-5 and 10 cytotoxicity testings methods as per the international standard. And it passed our product, and then it says that it is completely safe for use for human thing. On the other side, we are also certified as per the ISO 17088 which is the international compostability standard. So our whole product is tested and certified as a compostable product. And these are the few key features of our products. Now going to, like, so we always say that authenticity is over everything. So that's how we believe in. So each and every materials are to use are certified as compostable, or like in case of like the top layer is certified as per the global organic textile standard. And then the materials otherwise, like which is the wood pulp for use, it's also ECF free. It is done as an ECF method. So whatever we have done, each and every materials, what we again say that it is tested and it is a verified product. And the disposal of our pads we use in our commercial pads, we use a disposal bag, which is also compostable. And we also use a red sticker as like the red dot movement in India, which signifies that our pads can be segregated very easily by the rag pickers and they won't have any infections otherwise, which may happen with other plastic pads in different ways. Our pads also can be either can be vermicomposted in a village scenario, or it can go to industrial composting facilities in cities, or even can be composted and also in a societies in our compost facilities. We have also worked on indigenous materials like bagasse, water hyacinth, banana fiber, jute to make sanitary pads as alternative materials, because otherwise the material which come from only from US, Canada, the wood pulp, is becoming day by day more and more expensive. So we have launched our product in Amazon about a year and a half back, and we have sold more than 25,000 boxes over the year, and then we have been one of the top player in Amazon in the hot news release category. These are some of the feedback we have received from people who are the real users in Amazon. You can read through it whenever you visit amazon.in. I'm not going to the details of that. Akara have reached out to more than 1 million women and girls over a decade as consumers. We have also reached out 400,000 plus women and girls through our education program. We engage 700 plus women in the mini factories which are running in India, about 15 locations and another 15 in about 8 countries in Africa, also in Nepal. We fulfill 11 out of 17 Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations through our work. Aka's vision and mission have been to provide comfortable, compostable, compassionate commerce, which means comfortable because the materials and the products which you use, it is very much comfortable for the women and girls and the users. It is compostable as a certified compostable product. We have a compassionate angle because we provide, from every box we sell, we provide free sanitary pads and education to the women and girls in need. It's also commercially viable as we are profitable for the last over 4 years. Akar have received several global recognitions, which includes Global Bioplastics Awards, which is recognized as Bio-Oscars in this industry. We have got a patent on the product and the materials what we sell. We got National Entrepreneurship Award and several other awards from UN and various other sectors. We are open to hear any questions from you, and we feel that you will also join our movement in India and also globally.
Thank you so much, Jaydeep, for your presentation. This has been really interesting to see the journey that Aker Innovations has gone through over the years, and also the latest version of the product that you currently are introducing to the market. I'm sure that people would love to know more about your model, and if I can give one takeaway for the panelists or for the audience, and as a curiosity for myself, once we get to the Q&A, I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you foresee scaling the current product, and maybe even more important, what some of the bigger barriers are that you are perceiving as a company in really scaling and building out the product category of compostable disposable menstrual pads. So that is something that I think we can get back to once we get to the Q&A section. Now, with that, I think we are ready for speaker number 3. As you notice, I'm really trying to stick to time today, so we have enough time for the panelists and all of you. So speaker number 3 is Ajinka Darija from Pad Care Labs. He's the founder and CEO. I would like to highlight that Ajinka himself could not make it to the session today. So when we get to the panel session and the Q&A with the audience, we'll have Aswari Kane, founding member of Pad Care Labs, who will be here to represent the company and answer the different questions. So with that, let's say over to Ajinka's presentation.
Hello, I'm Ajinkya Dharia. I'm founder and CEO at Padcare Labs. Padcare Labs is world's first menstrual hygiene management as a service provider where we are taking care of awareness, accessibility, and disposal and recycling of the sanitary napkins. In July 2018, I got opportunity to visit one of the landfills where I have seen number of waste pickers carrying this kind of sanitary napkins by using bare hands. That leads to the more market research, and I came to know in India 12 billion pads are getting generated, and 98% of this waste is going into landfill and water bodies. Right now, incineration, landfillings, or alternative methods are available, which creates a demerit of smoke, smell, high recurring cost, and high setup cost. Hence, it is inevitable to shift towards a new kind of technology. Apart from that, rack pickers carrying this kind of waste by using bare hands, which leads to their health issues. To solve or resolve the issues around awareness, accessibility, and disposal and recycling, we launch our end-to-end menstrual hygiene management kind of system, where we are providing awareness on a pro bono basis. Padcare vending machine is small device that what we are providing for the accessibility of sanitary napkins, and that is we are installing at an individual female's cubicle. Padcare bin, which is small compact device that can be fit into individual cubicle level, where female can put the sanitary napkins, and we are providing the issues and solving the problems in terms of females health, hygiene, and privacy. With our dedicated supply chain, we are collecting the sanitary napkins and we are processing into world's first 5D based technology. We are recovering the wood pulp and the plastic out of it, having a different application in the agriculture, industrial, as well as paper and packaging industry. At the we are trying to create a small circular economy inside the female washroom, where females are connecting the dots. How I'm accessing the pad, how I'm disposing the pad in a sustainable way, and there are few products and the frames that made out of this kind of material we are putting back into the female washroom. Pad care vending machines are having capacity of 50 pads, and his uniqueness is in terms of digital payment system. Two types of pads are available, and the every data is getting a tracked. Padcare Bean, which is small unit, which is solving female-centric issues around their health, hygiene, and privacy, which can store 75 pads for 30 days without any order and bacterial growth. Then we are collecting this pad with our dedicated supply chain. The Padcare VAP, which works on the vapor phase technology and which ensures safe storage of this kind of sanitary napkins at source. We are providing this kind of Padcare pins on a free-to-use basis, and right now 1,600 units are being deployed in last 6 months, having been full capacity as well. With our trained EHS staffs are collecting the sanitary napkins and processing into our central processing machine. These 5D technologies are working on the principle of 5Ds, where 5Ds are disinfection, deodorization, decolorization, disintegration, and deactivation of superabsorbent polymer. The current system can process up to 1 million metric tons of the pads on a per day basis, and all the regulatories are already have received, and the system is running for last a year, and we are recycling a millions of pad on monthly basis. The output that what you're coming from, it is using in the agriculture and composite material, having addressable market of $400 million across India and the global level. The technology is just not meant for sanitary napkins. It has huge technological implementation in the absorbent hygiene product, including diapers, adult diapers, maternity pads, textile, and tetra industry. We are just not providing the product, but we are providing and sharing the experience with our targeted beneficiaries with pro bono awareness camps, recycling certificate, and every data is getting tracked. The system has US ways in terms of recycling technology, waste to value model, circular business model, and data tracking mechanism that ensures the carbon credit for dedicated clients. Padcare is the only company on global level which is providing decentralized sanitary napkin processing and recycling with our own technology. This market is worth $42 billion, and we are targeting the same. Padcare works with the company on company operated model where we are providing menstrual hygiene management as a service to our target audience, and we are operating in 4 cities, almost more than 100 plus B2B customer including P&G, Kimberly Clark, Facebook, Meta. We are scaling this model with micro entrepreneurship where we are empowering the females to run this system for the female. With this, right now we are recycling almost a lakh of pad with our the technology and providing benefits to the 15,000 females, and that is saving monthly 171 metric tons of carbon. With this, we are also observed we are reducing the urinary tract infection almost by 90% at one of the education institutes and saving almost more than 10 to 20 metric tons of kind of carbon to the corporates like Mahindra in India. With this, we are targeting almost 100K kind of installation points within next 24 months that will ensure to the safe handling of menstrual hygiene management waste for more than 1 million females on daily. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ajinka, for your presentation. For a person who's very interested in different business models to bring menstrual products to the market and to the users, I think that this is a really interesting example where a company has taken the opportunity and the initiative to really look at the entire value chain and also the waste process and try to build a new business model around that. As an individual who represents agencies who work with the most vulnerable people in the world, I would be very curious at a later stage to hear about how this technology and this business model can also trickle down both in rural areas in the low and middle income countries. It doesn't have to be, but I'd love to hear if there's an option, and how you could foresee working with such a model in highly dense living environments, for example, in refugee camps where waste collection is also a challenge. So something to think about as we head towards the Q&A section in a bit. For now, I would like to transition to our fourth presenter, William McNichol. He's the Vice President of Intellectual Property and the Director for No Waste, another organization with a very interesting approach of turning waste from different kinds of absorbents into raw materials for a new purpose. So with that, I'd say over to William's presentation.
Good morning. I'm Bill McNichol, Vice President of No Waste Technologies, and I'm here to talk with you this morning about resource recovery from menstrual absorbent hygiene products. Just to define our terms, when I talk about menstrual absorbent hygiene products, I'm only talking about the items that you see pictured here on the left: tampons, menstrual pads and sanitary napkins, things like that. I'm not talking about reusable, washable products like silicone cups or washable briefs. Two separate categories, and I'm only talking about the materials on the left. Menstrual AHPs are, of course, not the only absorbent hygiene products that you see on the market. Absorbent bed pads, infant and adult diapers are very commonly available, and they're all considered AHPs and share common structural and functional properties. What are those common functional and structural properties? Well, first and foremost, they're all single-use and disposable. They are structured in a way so that they contain absorbent fiber, usually cellulosic, within a plastic shell. And the absorbency of that fiber is hugely augmented by the addition of something called superabsorbent polymer, SAP or SAP. SAP starts out as a dry powder, and upon contact with water, it gels, and it can absorb many times, maybe 50 times, depending on the particular polymer used, its weight in water. All that is stitched together in a way to contain or sequester biological materials. That could be blood, could be urine, could be feces. Then once it's sequestered within the AHP, the AHP can be disposed of along with those objectionable biological materials. That makes it extremely attractive to end users. It's a very attractive way of disposing of materials, so it doesn't get on your clothes, doesn't get on your person, and then you just discard it. These are also the features that make it very difficult to deal with AHPs once they've reached the end of their life. There are three principal end-of-life or post-disposal fates for AHPs. The first is the oldest, which is landfilling. That is an option that is sunsetting because landfills are becoming scarcer, they're becoming more expensive. Landfill operators don't like AHPs because they tend to swell up and consume landfill volume, and AHPs contain biological materials that then leach into the water table, and that's not good, not any of it. Incineration is currently a very commonly used option, but it has the problem of generating greenhouse gases and other air pollutants. And it is also a disposal option that is sunsetting. The third option is the one that No Waste works on, and we think makes the most sense in the long term, which is to deal with the biological materials that are sequestered within the AHPs, and then extract the plastic and the fiber so that it can be put to another cycle of use, thereby leaving virgin resources, trees, petroleum, in the ground or in the woods, so that they don't need to be harvested, and you can put the recovered materials to 2, 3, perhaps 4 more cycles of use, and that is, we think, the environmentally smart and responsible way to proceed. Resource recovery from AHPs is, of course, easier said than done. The happy news from our perspective is that No Waste has spent years developing the technologies that are necessary to accomplish it. And you see some of them listed on this slide. Dealing with biological waste is, of course, always important for both worker safety and environmental protection regulations. And we also have to deal with the SAP, which needs to be dealt to deactivate it. And then the fiber has to be separated from the plastic cleanly in a way that leaves no biological or pharmaceutical residue. And that regulation of pharmaceutical and residue on materials that once held biological waste is already in place, and it's becoming more rigorous and more extensive. But the technologies exist to deal with those regulations. And then finally, you have to make sure you're getting a good price on the recovered plastics and fiber. Dealing with all of these are essential to having a successful resource recovery project. We've been talking so far about AHPs in general, so it's worth pausing for a moment to look at where menstrual AHPs fit into the overall AHP category. And as you can see from this slide, it's a very small portion of the overall AHP category. Diapers account for over 80% of the category. The fact is that the volume of menstrual AHPs is too small to support a dedicated menstrual AHP resource recovery program. But the good news is that they make sense as part of an overall AHP resource recovery program, and most AHP resource recovery programs do accommodate menstrual AHPs. There are 3 sources of funding for an AHP resource recovery program. One is, of course, the sale of recovered materials from the AHPs. The other is the avoided cost of other disposal methods, so that you can avoid paying the landfill operator and you can pay that money instead to the resource recovery person. An important area that you will see becoming even more important in the coming years is product stewardship fees. Those are fees in the form of taxes or other charges imposed on sellers of disposable products to finance the cost of the responsible disposition of the disposable products. And you will see that in the next 5 to 10 years, these will become even more important than they are now in driving resource recovery projects. So that's my presentation for you this morning. I hope I haven't run too far over in time, but I've conveyed at least some information to you about how resource recovery can play a role in dealing with menstrual AHPs, and I look forward to answering whatever questions you might have.
Thank you very much, Will, and very exciting. Your presentation has definitely engaged the audience quite a bit. We have a lot of questions in the chat. I've tried to copy them, and we'll make sure that we get back to these. As some of the people in the room had already asked, I think that also this is one of my questions is on the cost of recovery and the comparison between the input of waste versus the output of raw materials, and basically how much of a subsidies or additional funding you would require to make this a break even or a profitable enterprise. Something we can get back to. But I would like to transition to the last speaker for now, which is Mahesh Nakarmi. He's the founder, chairman, and executive director of HICAF. And after the presentation by Mahesh, we will be transitioning to the panel discussion today. So without further ado, over to Mahesh. I think you have to press play on the recording for this one. Are you using the slides or the video itself? I may have it at the ready.
Present myself, or you want to record?
No, I have the recording. I was just wondering if Madison has it, or would you like me to play it?
Yeah, I might need your help with the recording.
That is no problem at all.
Sorry about that.
No worries. I'm going to share my screen. Just let me know once it's visible. Here we go.
Perfect. Oh, I see. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
There we go.
I am Mahesh Nakarmi from Health, Environment, and Climate Control. We are working.
I don't hear anything. I'm not sure if that's just me or not. Oh, perfect. Yeah, it looks like others.
I may need to change my settings here.
Hey, can I present?
Give me a second. I think we will. Just confirm if you can hear something now. Give me a second here.
As per guideline, we focus on problems, innovation, value chain.
Anything?
Yes.
Yes. All right. Okay, then I will start it from the beginning. Apologies for the hiccup.
I am Mahesh Nakarmi.
I think it stopped again. Yeah, when you mute and go off video, for some reason, the audio goes away. I think I just saw somebody put that in the chat also. Yeah, sorry about that.
I can do presentation.
No, it's. I'll give it one more try, and then if it doesn't work, then let me know. But I won't touch this thing.
I am Mahesh Nakarmi from Health, Environment, and Climate Control. We are working actively on the disposal of.
Turn the volume up just a little bit as well.
Nepal. And I would like to thanks to Health Supplies Coalition and MSM Emergencies for providing me this opportunity to share you our experiences. In this presentation, as per guideline, we are going to focus on problems, innovation, value chain, technology, and also feedback and financial and scalability. First of all, when we talk about disposal of menstrual waste, we need to know about the menstrual load in Nepal. So menstrual waste load in Nepal is around 127 million bags. This is used by the almost like 15% of the menstruating girls and women only. The question is, where does this 127 million pads goes? I mean, this is disposed openly. Some of them buried in the ground, burned in open, so disposed in landfill with the other waste. So these are the existing practicing and practices of disposal of menstrual waste. And we need to find a solution. And because these pads, when you stay in the environment, it takes long time to degrade because decompose non-compostable central pad products takes 8 to 9 years, whereas compostable products take only 3 to 6 months to decompose. And reusable central products is multiple use, so it is definitely used to waste, but it also takes 1 to 10 years to decompose. It's because of cloth, depending on the cloth of type of clothes. So the picture shows you the existing disposal practices in the community, in the neighborhood, in the schools. So the solution of this, the innovation of doing this menstrual waste disposal through the vermicomposting. It was our tabletop exercise research. When we talk about value chain, there are many products available in the market, but none of these are thought about disposal. Disposal is not, they are not concerned about disposal. This is a big problem. So this is openly in the burn, openly landfill, and it is because the user, the behavior of the user also plays a role. It is because the user behavior is, they are thinking only about compatibility, fragrance, price, brand, but they are not thinking about disposal and they are not thinking about environment. In this value chain, we found that there are around 57 products are available in Nepal. Among them, 47 are single-use products and 10 are the multiple-use products. In 47 single-use products, there are like tampon is one of them, and another 46 is the pads, standard pads. These pads are also 19 type of regular pads, 27 type of ultra pad, and among the regular pads, 6 with sap and 13 without sap. And the 27 ultra pads, there are 27 with sap. There is no pads available without sap. So regarding the multiple use products, there are 4 type of cups and 6 type of cloth pads. Among the 6 type of cloth pads, mainly the cloth, one is a loose cloth used without any sewing, like the pad is just a cloth pad, and 5 is the sewing cloth pad, and 5 cloth pads are of the 5 types, they're materials. So all these taken like for 57 brands. So taking these products, we have used the bio-vermi technology, which is like using all the vermi methodology, but in the pads. So we have taken the pads and we put the high ml of the expired blood, that this was not the real life research. This is a tabletop research. On this, we have kept the 5 ml expired blood, and under that, we put these pads into the vermi, and later we found the result. So when we did this, so we did it according to category of these pads, like the lesser chemicals, adapted to the women's health, and high compostable rates are kept in green, and reusable pads, multiple use pads are kept in the blue, and with high risks of the women's health are kept in the red and orange. So there are 4 categories of pads we use, and we use this same thing, and we found that these are the pads result that we have measured. We did a recording of the environmental parameters, And we found the results like this. The MI parameters are like the temperature, pH, and moisture. And also, we did the result of physical parameters like the weight of manual, weight of pad, weight of burning during the process, and we found that this is the physical parameters. So in the result, we found that the good result is given by the result pad made of Nepali local cotton with organic dye. It has gone everything. And whereas the single use pad made of pine wood and pulp, pine wood pulp is also a good one. So these two are the good ones. From this, it is proven that organic is always good. So we have to develop the organic pads for the good for the health and good for the environment. And regarding the user perspective, we have not done any survey yet, but we did direct communication during our different events. We found is very, very good result from this direct communication from the user side, and is very, very helpful for us. Also, regarding financial scalability, yes, it is possible to produce. Now we are trying to do with the banana. We have a lot of banana farming here in the southern part of Nepal, and we are trying to do with the banana. The scalability, high possibility is there. The financial sustainability is there. Thank you very much. It's my address. I want to end me. Thank you very much for this opportunity again. Bye.
Thank you very much, Mahesh. I hope that everybody could hear his presentation. And again, a very interesting presentation from your side. We will be transitioning to this panel section of this webinar now. And while I start to introduce the different panelists, I would like to ask Madison to quickly share the another Zoom poll question that we have ready for all of you. So please go ahead and fill that out. From my notes, it should seem that we only have one question for all of you. That question is basically, from all the innovations that you've seen today, which one would you like to see implemented at scale? We have Planera, the flushable pads that you've seen. HACAF is the presentation by Mahesh on the vermi fermentation. We have the compostable pad by Aker Innovations. There is the menstrual product and menstrual waste as a service by Padcare Labs, and the large-scale industrial processing and recycling by No Waste by Will. So please go ahead and fill those out. Then in the meantime, I would like to briefly introduce the three panelists that are joining today. And I really should say it's a panel of experts. I'm very happy that the three of them could join us today. The first panelist is Wendy Anderson. She's the partner and co-founder of the Case for Her, an amazing initiative that has been leading the charge of investing in different kinds of menstrual health and hygiene innovations, programs, and projects through grants and investments. But I would like Wendy to introduce herself in a minute when I give her the floor. The second panelist is Lindsay Higgins, and Lindsay has experience in the menstrual health space in the past, but currently works as the head of research and insight at Pale Blue Dot, which is a VC, early stage VC company based in Sweden, if I'm correct. And she's really bringing the perspective from the research angle, looking also at the environmental components of the solutions we've seen today. So I'm very excited to hear her ask some probing questions to the different speakers. And finally, we have Elizabeth Tilley. She's the associate professor at the Department of Mechanical and Process Engineering at the ETH in Zurich. And I think with these three panelists, we will have some amazing expertise in-house to look a little bit closer at what you have all presented. So for the panelists, what I'm going to ask all of you is to introduce yourself briefly and ask maybe the two most important questions that you would like to see answered first. And we will then come circling back to all of you if we have more time available. So for now, I'd like to ask Wendy to introduce herself, and then to, yourself, the organization you work for, and share the two questions that you would like to ask first to the speakers. Wendy, over to you.
Thanks, Adrian. Thank you for this. Is really fun to be here. Really excited to hear some of these innovations that you're working on. I'm Wendy Anderson. I'm with the Case for Her. And can I only ask two questions out of all the things that we've heard?
No, you can definitely ask more, but I would like to give you the opportunity to ask 2 now, and then I will come circling back again.
Okay.
Just to make it manageable for the different speakers as well. Yeah.
Okay, I actually have 2 questions for Olivia at Planera. The first one I would like to have understood is, can you explain a little bit more about the concept between water solubility versus biodegradability and compostability? I think there's some special ideas around water solubility that I would like to just understand a little bit more. And then I would really like to understand how your pad works in a non-flush environment.
Of course, thanks, Andy. So water dispersibility ensures that within just water, this product will start to disintegrate. And so this will break down into 3 millimeter sized cellulosic fibers. The biodegradability is sort of within the water dispersibility, but I would say not as specific, just that within a certain period of time, this product is able to be broken down. The reason why we chose to go for water dispersibility, so solubility over biodegradability, was that within a wastewater system, we'd be able to confirm a certain time frame for the product to be broken down, and with the water processing within that wastewater treatment center, it seems an obvious thing that we needed to do as well. So the water solubility for us provided an extra step of reassurance that the product would fully biodegrade within a certain amount of time within the water that it was being flushed away with. With compostability, I think that there are a couple of other panelists on this call who are probably more expert at this. The reason why, so compostability for us, so you can explore that within both, obviously, home compostable and industrialized compostable. For us, and when we were starting to explore the different routes, we were looking for the most accessible route of disposability that was available to the consumers that we were looking at within the UK. And so with the majority of people being within a flushing toilet when they're disposing of the product, that's why we decided to go for water solubility. But within that compostability, that is something that we are looking to get the certification for and explore. When we spoke to TUV Austria about compostability, we were advised that because of the bio waste, because of the type of waste that was being used for the product, they were advising not to get the compostability certification for home. So that's why we went for the water certification first. That was a bit of a long answer to your question, but I hope that was useful. Oh, and sorry, the second part about what happens if the product is not flushed. So when it's not flushed within the water treatment system, it will still biodegrade with contact with water. It'll just be slower because we aren't able to ensure the environments that we are able to provide when it goes into the wastewater treatment center, and therefore exposure to the different types of degradation components. But we would still be able to be fully biodegradable, but we just can't confirm the time frame if it's not flushed.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And maybe you could remind the audience again, what is the time frame of if the product gets flushed? I saw it in the slides, but maybe good to remind them.
Sorry, what is the impact of it getting flushed?
No, the time frame, just the number of days, just to remind the audience.
So within 30 days of it being flushed, so contact with the toilet bowl is when it would biodegrade into water, biogas, and biosolids.
Brilliant. Okay, thank you very much. Then we're going over to Lindsay Higgins. Lindsay, please go ahead and introduce yourself, the company you work for, and share the first 2 questions for the speakers.
Yes, hello, my name is Lindsay. I am heading up research and insights at Pale Blue Dot, which is, as Adrian mentioned, an early stage VC fund, and we invest exclusively in climate tech. So either innovations to address climate change head on or help us prepare for a new world. So my first question is for Mahesh about the vermicomposting. And I'm curious about the types of worms that you're using in these composting systems. Do you sort of foresee any issues with introducing non-native species into ecosystems when the material is removed from the composting system? How do you ensure that the worms stay contained within that?
Mahesh, over to you.
Thank you. Thank you for this question. Actually, if you actually frankly, we have started this around 5 years ago in a nunnery where we have a problem with the pad. And where we did that, the vermi was so healthy in the menstrual blood, but that time it was not part of research. We just see that if it is okay. And we found that the worm was healthy, and we read some literature that worm also treat the infectious part. That was the starting point. So now we are doing a real research that when we use, this is the Yersinia foetida, the species, Yersinia foetida species, which we have using, is especially for the vermicomposting. We can buy it in Nepal. There are farmers are there. And regarding this, I think the second question was safety or what? I forgot that question. Can you repeat again?
Well, my question was about the worms, like kind of accidentally being introduced to the environment when you remove the composted material. Like, how do you make sure the worms stay contained within the composting system?
Because after this we use this worm to other composting things. It was okay. They live well. Because this is not, we are not feeding them one in the pad, one in the sanitary products. We use them the vegetables regularly as required. We give them same amount of vegetables. We give them same amount of tea leaves. They are very like tea leaves. Their favorite food is tea leaves. So we give them regular tea leaves. They are adjusted in the environment automatically because we are giving them within that environment. Pad is only one substance that is extra. Like when you will get a menu, food menu, we can get some extra item like that. It's like extra item. We're just trying, and that is what we saw that they like it. And those, if it is organic one, they like it. If there's not organic, they just leave it. Like plastic, they leave it. Like sap, they leave it. They eat only the compostable organic part. Even cloth, they didn't like all the cloth. Like with the chemical dye cloth, they didn't like it. Even the usual pad, chemical dye, they didn't like it. But they like the natural organic dye, Nepali cotton, they like it. They eat everything. So chemical, they don't like it. So it's very clear that those things which is harmful for us, they also think that is harmful for them. They didn't like it. So
okay, but
yes.
But the worms stay contained within the composting system itself.
Yeah. So after that, they contain very well. Why we are doing composting? This is a very down to earth system, very cheaper. For developing countries, we cannot afford a big technology. This is a very down to earth technology. So in that pad, like we put the same single-use pads, different brands, multinational brands. They didn't like any pad. They did like the pine wood. That was the our Anandi pad. That was the Jaydev is saying. We use that pad, and that was they like it. So that we see that they are in the environment. They are also in earth. We are also in the earth. So they like earth, means we should also like earth. And if we use like other pads, there are a lot of chemicals inside the pad. There are literature review. We found that a lot of pads are harmful for the health, like the different cancers. So that's why we thought that we are living living organism. We are living in earth. We should respect earth, and we should give back to earth. And this is because this very system we can implement in the schools where there is no money to buy technology. They can use this technology and use the organic pads. We are promoting for the compostable biodegradable pads, and it will be a solution for the schools and like that.
Thank you, Mahesh. Thank you. And then my second question is for the Akar Innovations. Is it Prashant who is speaking? Jaydeep, sorry. I'm curious about the resulting compost. Like, is it possible to still use that in agricultural settings? Are there any concerns around the sort of inclusion of biological materials into the compost?
Yeah, so frankly, I would say that we have done not so much of work on that, but then so we had, just for your information, so in New Delhi Municipal Corporations, which is the first smart city in India, so there are 28 schools and there are 6,000 girls. And then all of them use our pads for now several, I think 3 years now. It's between this Corona days, if you leave about, so it'll be little more than 2 years. And all these 28 schools have 28 compost pit. Again, so refer YG's recommendations and also we had set up that. And then they have been using it and then composting the pads. And also some of them are also being used for plantation within that school premises. So yes, but then if you do the same thing in villages, I would say so there are some hindrances, but then we have, as I said, we have not done so much of that work. Some sampling we have done. We need to get into more of depth of it. But I think when we talk about composting, as Maheshji said very rightly, so we also say that so just not give the pads, but also give other things like the plant leaves and then the kitchen waste and all kinds of other things which are also green. So it's not just looks like you're composting only the sanitary pads there and not put nothing else. So once you do that, then it becomes easier for people to accept it. If you just put sanitary pad into compost, yes, that's a big challenge. Many people may not like it.
So still some work to be done about the contamination, possible issues with other composting.
Can I add one thing on this, your question? I want to add one thing, possible.
Adrian, are we okay in time?
We do not recommend this to use in the other agricultural farm, because there is no research done in the pre and post of the contamination. So that's another research we are looking for. If we have a funding, we want to do a research about the treatment of the vermi treatment. How does it change the infection or the contamination pre and post? If that can be done, it will be certain that it will be used for the agriculture. Otherwise, we always use a non-food-based plant only. We like the grass, like the trees, like that only, not for the food-based plant. That's what we always recommend. But there is a research we are going to do on that also.
Yeah, school also that has been done only for like those flower plantations, not for foods yet on a food plantation. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think that that's a great point that Lindsay has highlighted here to make sure that that additional research is done, because I do see the value if we can use the strengths of Mother Nature to repurpose products that in the first place are less harmful for our environment, as long as we can guarantee the safety of the people who then handle it and if it ends up in the agricultural system. So great area for additional research. For now, I'd like to go over to Elizabeth. Could you quickly introduce yourself and share your first two questions for the speakers?
Sure, thank you. So as Adrian mentioned, I'm a professor in Switzerland, but my work primarily focuses on on-site sanitation and specifically the ways in which pit latrines usually are emptied, the problems associated with emptying and transporting and treating fecal sludge from pit latrines, and then the intersection between fecal sludge, on-site sanitation, and solid waste management. So that's really where I come to this topic from, because all of these products make emptying pit latrines very, very difficult. And I noticed that nobody mentioned that. I'm not sure if that's sort of a context issue. Most of the pit latrines globally are located in sub-Saharan Africa, but certainly around the world. So one of the tensions, or one of the things that I was kind of getting from two angles, and I don't know who to ask this to specifically, is that some of the products seem to be targeted towards a much easier use and disposal behavior. So for example, I've forgotten your name now, the Planera product, and very much sort of accepting that we as people are not good at separating our waste, and it's just, let's just throw it away, let's compost it, we can put it somewhere in the sewer or in a composting facility, versus the other speaker, I think Angika, who had quite a detailed logistical model that involves separation and collection. And maybe my question to, I don't know, to all the speakers or whoever hasn't answered a question yet is, where do you see your product in terms of promoting or accepting the current behavior change? Because I think, you know, innovations come, but if people can't follow the rules, they fail, and then we end up with really big challenges, either at the treatment plant or when a pit latrine is full. So maybe I'll ask Angika for the first part, and then maybe Planera as well.
So Jinka is currently is
right.
not with us, but Aswari should be on the call. I hope you got the question, and would you like to give it a shot? Aswari, can you hear us? I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. You may need to unmute yourself. I'm going to just ask you to do so.
Or maybe that question can go to Bill. I mean, the system is
Sure.
designed based
Sure.
on logistics and behavior, right?
It
Exactly.
is,
Well done.
and I think that's an important part that has to be taken into account. We can work on our technology all we want, and if end users won't adopt it, it doesn't go anywhere. And single stream recycling in most of the world has created problems rather than solve them, because you have to pay somebody to put on very heavy gloves and do the sorting that the end user wouldn't do. So I think the human engineering is crucial. They're just any solution that doesn't take into account those factors is at risk of failure. I think that end users want the convenience of single-use disposables. Single-use disposables are, of course, come with all kinds of problems, both in terms of their disposal and their carbon cycle impact. And so what we have found, and we've done carbon cycle analyses, which I would love to hear from the other presenters, what about their carbon cycle analysis that they may have done. We've had them done by the Fraunhofer Institute and others. And we have found that the best way to reduce carbon emissions, or I should say greenhouse gas emissions for the moment, and separately to reduce resource use, is by resource recovery. Compost, I think, while is convenient in some circumstances, has an undeservedly favorable reputation. Composting generates methane, which is an extraordinarily potent greenhouse gas. I think dispersing something doesn't mean it's not there, doesn't mean you didn't use the resource that you dispersed. Our view is that you need to accept the fact that people want to use disposables, single-use devices, and then find ways to do so in ways that reduce the carbon cycle impact and reduce the use of resources. Euphemistically, you can say that things, turn into biogas and then they disappear. Well, they don't disappear. They go up into the atmosphere as methane and other hydrocarbons and have a greenhouse effect. So I think taking ownership of the materials through a resource recovery process is the way to go. People have asked whether in the chat window, whether it makes sense to use single-use disposables at all, given that you have to spend a significant amount of resources in recovering resources. And that's actually been discussed and evaluated very closely in the context of diapers or nappies. And people have found that it's a close run thing, which uses more energy and which has a greater environmental impact. Cleaning things involves use of detergents and soaps, which are far from friendly. So I think any one of the solutions, including the ones that NOAA would propose, has to be put under a serious analysis for its carbon cycle impact and the number of resources and the fate of the resources that are used. I realize no waste makes no sense in the context of a silicone menstrual cup. We wouldn't take it, we discard it. It's not something we can recover resources from. But each path has to be subject to a fairly rigorous carbon cycle impact. And I would love to hear from my fellow presenters what their carbon cycle analysis looks like.
Thanks so much. Well, and if we have the time for that, I'd love to come back to that. I do want to give Liz the opportunity to ask her second question.
Thanks. I just want to say maybe shortly, I don't think composting does produce methane if it's working properly. It shouldn't anyways. I don't want to give composting a bad name as an aerobic process. But maybe my second question to Olivia would be, if during your discussions and you have a lot of certifications, because I started out as a wastewater engineer and kind of immediately bristled at the technology and was like, okay, Liz, calm down, it's good. Just because I worried a little bit about the potential for, a reverse of behavior change. And now that you've introduced this to the market and people are very comfortable and they can start adopting the idea that they put it into the toilet, and now you start getting the other non-sewer safe products. Can you just talk about that, or if that was ever an issue that someone flagged, or how we can prevent that from happening?
Of course, thank you for that question, because that are really, really valid concerns, and that was a big part of our sort of process of analysis when going to market. For us, we were looking at currently, as I mentioned, like 1 in 3 sanitary products are already being flushed in the UK. So with all of, I know. Okay. So that was a big shock to me, because with each of the 12, water companies in the UK providing all of these big do not flush campaigns, people have still, whether willfully or ignorantly, aren't aware about things that shouldn't be flushed down the water system. So I completely agree with you. So for me, I was looking to tap into an existing consumer behavior that clearly hasn't been modified by years of education that has been funded both by Water UK as well as the different water companies. So then we started to look, well, if people are doing it, is there a way to minimize the impact of it? And that's exactly, so we've reached out to pretty much all of the water companies, and the closest that we've been working with is Thames Water. So within that, the reason why we wanted to explore this is because of the biosolids assurance scheme. So all of the wastewater and then the biosolids going straight into agriculture, all of the products that are being flushed will break into microplastics, which will enter our food stream. So for us, with a microplastic-free product, our aim of the impact is to reduce the number of microplastics and going into our food streams, but also because as part of the flushability certifications, we've got to be able to show that within hours, we fully disintegrate within the sewage waste. So we don't add to the blockages, because we know in the UK, the #1 culprit isn't solids, it's oils and fats being put down the drain. Exactly, but these wipes and these hygiene products going down into it will of course build up to it. So we wanted to make sure that we didn't add to it. So that was that. But then also considering what Bill said about the carbon impact, the actual act of flushing with the biosolids assurance scheme is what makes us half of the carbon footprint of the other plastic products on the market, because we've removed the actual products themselves, but that is a definite consideration, because ultimately for Planera, I was really conscious, what is our goal is to create the biggest amount of impact. And as part of that, we need to tap into the market acceptability. And that was one of the things, is that I completely agree with you that there are different analyses that we need to be making for all of the different innovations within this femtech space. But I'm also conscious that we need to have it where currently always in the UK, the P&G product has over 53% of market share. So we need to be able to get some of that market share to products that have less of an impact. So that was sort of our consideration when going to market. But all of what you raised are really valid sort of things that we are exploring with our life cycle analysis, which is cradle to grave.
Awesome.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry,
no worries. Maybe quick question, quick answer for each panelist. Wendy, one more question for one of the speakers.
Actually, I was really interested to understand, Bill, do you require, like, how do the products get to a no waste facility? Are you dependent on an underpinning infrastructure that is providing the products into your system? And how would that scale then in an environment that maybe doesn't have that infrastructure?
Yeah, I mean, we've operated plants that process 25 to 35,000 metric tons a year. And that's a significant size, and that's actually as small as we would go. So yeah, there is a dependence on the ability to collect the materials, and the low-hanging fruit, if you will, is care homes, schools, hospitals, people like that. And then what people find that, nobody is as harried and as desperate as a parent for dealing with nappies. And that, because it's large volumes, children are incredibly efficient at generating used nappies. And they have been trying to deal with what in some parts of the world are called tiger bags, because they're yellow with black stripes. And community collection procedures are put in place. Wales has adopted a goal of collecting all household absorbent hygiene products for separate resource recovery within the next 5 years. And so the infrastructure is going to be operating in parallel with the ordinary waste bin collection, and it will be piggybacking on that. So yeah, the short answer to your question is yes, there is a requirement for a collection infrastructure.
Thanks, Bill. Last question from Lindsay. And
sure, I'll ask a question to Pad Care Labs because I don't think we've heard from them yet. I'm curious about, I mean, what's the size of these resource recovery systems and where are those actually located?
Hi, so this is Samriddhi. I'll be presenting Pad Care as Ajinkya and Asavari are not available. Yeah, we have developed a model and currently it is in Pune. It is a centralized facility right now, and we are into developing small as well as large scale models as well, which will be required according to the needs of the customers that will be bringing in the models that we need to sell. So like Pad Care Nano, so that can be placed inside a washroom cubicle as well, and a 1 metric ton plant currently into designing it, and we are in the process of research. So yeah, that can recycle 1 metric ton of pads like every day. So based on the needs, we'll be doing that.
Thank you.
Great. And then the final question from Elizabeth.
I'm still stunned from 1 metric ton of pads per day. Maybe I'll go to Jaydeep. And oh, I saw you there a second ago. Where'd you go?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Hi. I guess I have maybe again a site specific question, but how do your products, or if you know, have you investigated how your products degrade or can be recovered from on-site sanitation? I'm assuming you have a lot more septic tanks, maybe double pit type systems. Can you just talk a little bit about what happens when it doesn't get to the composting facility?
Again, I would say, like, admit that we have not done so much of work on that, but then like I think we have been working. We made compostable pad first time in 2012 and 13, and not now. So since then we have been working across India and also across Africa, about 8 countries, and also in Nepal. So as of now, like wherever we have worked, we like I've seen that people have been done like so. Not that everywhere they have made this compost pits, but then otherwise. Like what we had received was all positives, and then like the communities where we work. But then I think like we need to do more investigations on that, and like so I'm happy to work with any researchers in the space. We already work with Maheshji, and then to work with more other technologies on this. We also started working with Pad Care Labs on this, on the seeing how it affects with that technology. Yeah, we are very close to each other, like it's about only I think 1 hour away. So yeah, so those we are looking at multiple opportunities to work on this disposal side of it, because earlier we were most focused on making the right pads, and then also the different indigenize the materials, because when you work in Africa, we didn't want to take materials from US or India or China and to go there and then make the pads there. So we are utilizing the local materials like hyacinth, which is full up in Victoria Lake, and then things like banana fiber, which is there in plenty across Africa, and also bagasse, which is sugarcane waste. And we have done that. We have got a patent on that, and we have just we have pilot units there already in running, but then we have to do in very large scale commercial productions in Africa also very soon. And one large factory like that is going to start in India in next 3 months time, also using the alternative materials, because I don't know if you're aware of, so before Corona, the wood pulp rate in India was less than $1. Right now it's close to $3. So you can imagine the cost of product has gone up for manufacturers in what way, and it is affecting the industry in a very, very bad manner. And many plants have actually shut down their business because they couldn't afford to supply the same rates to the multinationals or others. So we got a solution which is half the cost of that, and we're going to the commercialization. We have done pilots, now we're going to the commercialization of that in India and also in Africa very soon in the large scale.
Thanks, Jaydeep. That's actually really interesting to hear how we're, in a way, also spreading the risk by not relying on a single raw material. As I promised at the beginning of the sessions that we would have time for questions from the audience. I know we only have 6 minutes left, but I'd like to ask the speakers if they have a bit of flexibility, and the panelists if they would like to stick around for a few more minutes. But I'm going to just pick out a few questions that have been posted in the chat throughout the last hour and a half. Maybe to start with Bill from No Waste, we had a question from Arun Dati, who was wondering how your solution could be applied in rural areas or remote areas with limited access to technology, electricity, and other solid waste management solutions. And maybe link to that from the interest of that I have in your solution. How do you foresee the use in low and middle income countries more generally, and how big of a hurdle are the capital expenditures to set up a facility like yours in these regions?
There's a significant capital expenditure, and I think it's difficult to justify, as I mentioned in my slides, the capital expenditure unless you can spread that capital expenditure out over other AHPs. So if the question is limited to menstrual AHPs, I think it's probably not a good solution. But I think any place that uses disposable AHPs of one kind probably uses them of all kinds. And I think taken together, the capital expense spread out over all AHPs, including adult and child diapers, the economics tends to work. I think the question that was raised by Wendy about the collection is always a good one. I think in highly populated areas, densely populated areas, collection becomes far less of a expense, generates far less of a carbon footprint. So in rural areas, it becomes more challenging. It does not correlate really with economics. People think of disposable single-use products as something that's aspirationally for the wealthy or the aspirationally wealthy, but their convenience drives them across all economic strata from what we've seen, at least aspirationally. And again, you have to take into account the human engineering of people's preference. But if you're talking about just menstrual AHPs, and if you're talking about operating exclusively in a rural area, it's very difficult to have it make sense. Hate to say it, but that's just the truth.
No, I think that's these are just important constraints that we need to take into consideration. So thank you for answering that question, Bill. I had a follow-up question for Jaydeep from Jean. Why did you choose for a decentralized production model?
Yeah, I was just answering in the chat box. So yes, we started about 12 years back when we started off, we focused on the decentralized model because we felt like in the villages where we started working where multinationals were not there. And then reaching out with a large production facility and transporting those pads, which is a very bulky materials, to those villages would have been very difficult to do. So we thought about starting small, and we experimented that model across India and also across Africa. And then it has worked in many places and also failed in many places. So it is, I would say, the success rate would be maybe 30-40% on the positive side and 60% on the negative side. And but I think I would also want to admit here, it has worked beautifully in Africa, where we worked in Kenya, in Tanzania, in South Africa, and many other regions where it's still working and doing well beyond India. The decentralized models. And now over the years, because when we started off back in 10-12 years back, so multinationals were not present in villages at all in India, and forget about I think Africa also the same way, wherein over this 10 years they have started reaching out to the villages also. And then now our products, which are made in the villages in small units, are also competing with the multinational brands. So there obviously there is a difference between if you make in $1 million machine vis-a-vis a $10,000 machine. So there would be differences, not in the basic quality things, but like the absorbency, retention, and this thing, but then also the look and feel and everything. So, and also obviously the price point. So when you make it in small facilities, it doesn't mean that you are making it cheaper. You will always be more expensive than the larger facilities which multinationals are making, because they have economy of scale. But then we have those advantages of doing direct to consumer sales. Also the advantages of the low cost manufacturing facility, overhead costs were pretty low. And that's how, and then there was no marketing cost at all. It was all majorly word of mouth and the people coming over there and buying things. So that has worked well. But then I think over the years, we have seen that that model also facing challenges as the multinational growing into the villages. And we have grown from a manual machine to a semi-automatic. Now we have automatic machines. But when we had looked at automatic machines, we didn't go for the multi-million-dollar machines. We had made a machines which is automatic, but then only, let's say, the capacity is such like, so it will 50, 60 to 70, 80 pads per minute to about 200 pads per minute, which costs like 1/10 the cost of the multi-million-dollar machine, but then make equally good international standard products. And one of the such machine is now up and running in Nairobi in Kenya, and any of you are there, you can go and visit that. It is when you make the machine, so obviously we do the designing and all, but we don't manufacture our things. So like some people got so surprised who made this, so they said not going to give it to you at the same price what we had made for next time when you make it with us. So that's the beauty of that. And then we're keeping like depending on the market, so we are very flexible in terms of how we make a machine and also the raw materials. So it's a combined thing. So we do the custom made things as per the need of that place. And that's how we are moving forward. And now we are at a stage where we are talking about, we have stopped making the semi-automatic and manual version, only making the automatic machines, but then also in a different scale, starting from about 100 per minute to it goes up to about 700 per minute also, speed of in terms of machine. I think
thank you, JD, for elaborating on that. That's really helpful. I would like, because I know we're past the 1.5 hour mark of our webinar, so I will give the opportunity to all of the speakers to answer at least one question from the audience. But for all of you here in the audience who already have to leave, I just want to say thank you for joining and for being part of the webinar so far. If you have to be somewhere else and you have other engagements, then we would not like to keep you. But if you want to hear the 3 final answers to the questions from the audience to the other speakers, then please stick around for a few more minutes. With that, I just wanted to go to Pad Care Labs. There was a comment at the beginning of the webinar early on during your presentation from Sumya, who noted that it seemed that pet care products would fit really well into different public spaces as well, like hospitals, nursing homes, transportation centers such as railway stations and airports, but also hotels and restaurants. And I know that in your presentation, you mostly refer to some of the larger corporates that you're working for. But are you considering working with other public spaces with high volume congregation to offer your services as well?
Yes, so as you all already know that we are working with the higher corporates, and now we are trying to enter into housing societies as well. So we will be creating a smaller model that can work out there. Also, one of the questions were to work with hospitals and such institutions. So yeah, we will be creating franchisee owned models so that we can sell it to the hospitals and the parts could be processed there itself.
And do you foresee any challenges in working with public sector operated locations like a train station, for example, or would that still have the same compelling?
Actually, we are currently giving services to we are into process of giving services to airports and all. So the problem is not there, but yeah, but for railway stations, we'll have to work out.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. Then I have a question for Olivia. Let me see. There were quite a few. I know that several people have asked about both the price point and as well as the shelf life of the Prenera products. I know you answered it in the chat, but maybe for the audience it would be good to just recap that briefly.
Of course. So current shelf life, you're still working on improving. So it's a 6-month shelf life. The reasoning is because obviously we are sensitive to humidity, and because the wrapper as well as the pad is flushable, this is something that we are improving. So for example, at the beginning of the year, it's 3 months. So we have been improving it and we're looking to extend it to a minimum of 2 years. Price point currently at launch and for the last year has been at 40p per pad. So for comparison, in the UK market leader in retail is about 10 to 25p per pad. So we're about double to 3 times the price currently. Compare us to organics, we're about the middle to lower range. So organic products in the UK range from 35 to 75p per pad.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very much. And then I hope one of my colleagues maybe was able to capture another question for Mahesh from the chat, or if there is somebody who has a question for Mahesh who would like to speak up, then you can also unmute yourself. Any more questions for the vermi composting, or maybe one of the the panelists who would like to ask a follow-up question to Mahesh?
I have a question. I was wondering for vermicomposting, how does the pad get to the system? What is the collection process for that process?
So actually, at the moment, we have not gone to the implementation in the community or in the school. So we'll develop a vermicomposting the accessories as required. So after the use of sanitary pad, they can just go and drop this to the vermicomposting bed, where it will be taken care. So we have to develop a kind of a mechanism of how it will be managed, but it's not difficult. But there will be a system that after use, they can just go and drop this pad to the vermicomposting bed. That's all. Very easy, very simple. It's not complicated. Because we want to develop a very down-to-earth system for the local and for the school girls. That's what our aim is. So
thank you, Mahesh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. So basically, you've tested the technology in the first phase, and you're looking to then introduce it in a simple way for the disposal into the system. Thank you so much. Okay, well, with that, we at least had a chance to ask one question from the audience to each speaker. I know that there are many more questions that people would like to ask. What I would like to flag is that we will be sharing the slides and the slide decks from all of the different speakers that have spoken today. The names and the details from the companies that the panelists work for or the organizations that they work for are also provided both at the invitation and the flyer, and we will make sure that they're included. Once the recording is ready, it will be uploaded to the website of the RHSC. So if you would like to watch a specific section, dig into the details of the slide deck, or share the webinar with colleagues and other interested people in your network, please do go ahead and do so. I hope this has been a useful session for all of you. I just want to double check, Madison, is there another poll that we are supposed to share or results we're supposed to share, or would this be the end of it?
No, we could share the results from the first poll that we did. So I have those shared for question 1. It looks like overwhelmingly the first option was definitely chosen the most, but you can see the results for the others there as well. And if you scroll down to question 2, you can see where participants have prioritized transformation in menstrual waste management. So
brilliant.
You can see those. And perhaps I will also include those on the website when we post the link to the webinar recording as well, because I think that may be of interest to people. So
perfect. All right, well then I would like to say a big thank you again to all of the speakers today, all the panelists, everybody in the audience for joining us, the team at RHSC, my colleagues, Nancy, Madison, and Tanya for making all of this happen. I hope this was an informative and entertaining session for all of you. I've learned a lot over the last 3 webinars, and I can speak on behalf of the MHM and Emergencies Working Group, as well as UNFPA and UNHCR, to say that this is really the starting point of a learning journey for us in menstrual waste. And yeah, we really look forward to taking many of the insightful things that you have shared with us to help improve our response and find a better solution to dealing with the waste from all of the millions and millions of products that we provide to the people most in need across the globe. So a big thank you to everyone. I wish you a lovely continuation of your day or a good start to your evening. And if there's ever a need, feel free to reach out to any of us here at UNFPA or at RHSC. Thank you very much.
thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye.